My name is Marian Haley Beal, and I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Ethiopia from 1962 to 64, and I lived in Debre Berhan. I remember walking at night where there was no electric lighting around and seeing the Milky Way and the hyenas running across the road.
My name is Pat Sweetest Siklai. I was in Asbatafari, Ethiopia from 1964 to 1966. Eileen was my roommate at UCLA in training, and we went together to Asbatafari along with Courtney, and we were the first Americans in this village. We started the secondary school.
I'm Eileen Sonata Saracen, and I was also in Asbatafari, Ethiopia from 1964 to 1966. And during that time, we opened the 36th high school in Ethiopia. And it was a real, I think, it was an important goal to try and achieve. Children came from down out of the hills to come to the school because this area did not have a high school. And some of the children came and they stayed in people's houses and worked for other Ethiopians as well as for us in order to be able to stay and go to school. We had a lot of memorable students, I think. And I'm thinking of Mahdi Hamid right now. Mahdi was an incredibly energetic young student. And he went on to, in fact, he lives in the United States right now, and he went on to eventually obtain his doctorate in languages, I believe, isn't it?
Was it languages?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Courtney Roberts Arnold, and I was in Asbatafari with Pat and Eileen in 1964 to 1966. And of course we have many memories, but I remember the summer when we all worked together to open an OpenStack library for the students. Before, the books had all been locked up and kept under key, and this was something very new for them, to be able to have a library card and be able to take books home. And I think that was a very special project.
Thank you. We're just taking a raise. I'm Howard Saracen. I was in Ethiopia from 1964 to 1966. The first year I was in Deradawa, and then I moved up to Asbatafari because I had met and married Eileen Sonata, who was living in Asbatafari. And I guess my memories are the torrential rains that would land on our tin roof, and it would be so loud we couldn't even talk. You would just sit there and put your fingers in your ears.
My name is David Arnold. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Ethiopia in the town of Asbatafari. My wife and I and three good friends who are all here this weekend to celebrate together. We all taught in Djazma Tuolda Geber Alapasetan Tamir Tibet. It was a lovely country. It still is a good country. A lot of very, very brave, strong people have tried very hard to make a better country.
Well, my name, as far as the Peace Corps goes, is Jim Boylson. My official name is James Seamus Boylson, Seamus being my Gaelic name. And I was a member of the first major group to go to East Africa, which is Ethiopia, Eritrea, and that was in 1962. And we were the largest single contingent of Peace Corps ever put together before or since, 325 members. We served there. We went there at the invitation of the Emperor, Haile Selassie. And we were mainly a teaching contingent, and I had a teaching load, but I also was a volunteer leader, and I did community economic development project. I helped the other members of the team when they wanted to do some sort of a community development project. I assisted them. And one of my favorite stories is having assisted the late U.S. Senator from Massachusetts, Paul Tsongas, who had students from that came long distances to a rural school and couldn't go back home, lived out in the fields, and I showed him how to have them build a kibbutzim for themselves and grow their own food and things like that. And that kibbutzim was still standing and still in use when I was back there in 1978. Excuse me, no, not 1978, later than that, 2008. 2008 was the last time I was there. Anyway, I was based in Addis Ababa, the capital, and I worked at both the secondary school and college, a Canadian Jesuit taught college, and I did a lot of different projects. I showed people how one headmaster had all the small children for the first 4 grades all in one building, and an American company was expanding the airport in Addis at that time. I met him at a party, and I got him to donate all the surplus materials, and we were able to expand that school to create a whole new section for the younger children. We did a lot of other things, but I guess just before we left, one of the things we did is we built a school, a 3-room block, concrete block, which we built from scratch, made our own blocks and everything like that, in the emperor's birth village in Harar, down in southern. And he came to visit it when we had it. He was so moved, he could hardly speak for a while. He was so impressed and so thankful. So we had met him. He invited us to the palace several times, 3 or 4 times, and so we met and got to know him. And he was good. He would speak. He knew how to speak English, but he preferred to speak in French, if not Amharic. So it was a very, very interesting experience. I had my own vehicle. Because I was doing projects all over the country. It's a big country. If you look on a map, Ethiopia is geographically one of the bigger countries there, and the people are wonderful. And I guess if I wanted to talk about a lasting memory, I would say the last time I was back there, I was for any length of time, that is other than drop in, was in 2008, and a young man who was a student that I helped him. He lived in the countryside, and so I took him into our house. He was now a businessman. He was retired from Ethiopian Airlines, and I was his guest. And when we would go out to the Ethiopian eating and drinking places, they call foreigners Ferengi over there, and they wanted to know who this Ferengi was in an Ethiopian place. And when my host and friend would tell them, I had grown adults coming to my table and saying, "Thank you for the education you gave us." Very moving, very moving. So I stay in touch. I continue to be of service to them. I did one project from the United States where we sent over 50 containers of surplus medical equipment to open a bunch of new rural health centers, as well as upgrade 12 hospitals. So those experiences and those relations, you can either put them behind you and forget them, or you can make them lasting parts of your life, and that's what I've done.
Fantastic.
I am Carl Schroeder. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Ethiopia from 1968 to 1970 in Bali Goba, Ethiopia. Goba was the capital of Bali province. And what, you wanted me to tell a story now?
Yeah.
Okay, one of my many favorite stories, I took the train from Addis Ababa to Djibouti, which is on the Red Sea, on the eastern coast. And the train stopped in the middle of the desert because there was a market going on. I guess there were Somalis, ethnically Somalis,
with small camel caravan selling stuff on the side of the train tracks. So I got out to walk around, and there was one family. The market was ending, and this young girl, about 15 years old, was trying to load her camel, but the camel would not kneel down, and the camel's head is far above her head, and she is talking at it in Somali, so I can't understand it, but it sounds like she's swearing at it. And there's a long rope hanging down from the way you do with a horse or a camel, and she's tugging on it. The camel will not. He makes these noises, and finally she takes her feet. She hangs on the rope. Her feet are off the ground, and the camel is swinging his head like a crane, and she's swinging back and forth. And finally she lets go. She tumbles in the dust, and she just brushes herself off like this is a daily routine. And then she looks around, and she picks up a rock that's about as big as a grapefruit. And the camel's head is here, and she takes the rock, wham, on the side of the camel's head. And the camel blinks, and then he gently kneels down, and she loads him up. She just had to get his attention.